Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth here. So I wanted to do this video in regards to how to navigate the grocery store. So if you're looking to make better changes in your health or within your diet, you do have to know certain things about the grocery store that will help you navigate better choices, not only for the health of yourself and your family, but just to understand some of the operations and the growth of how the business works. So you have to understand that product placement is a very important thing. The grocery store is set up based upon a lot of our psychological understandings of how things operate within our brain to choose certain consumer type of products. So there are a lot of things that are set up in the grocery aisles or in certain parts of the store that are there for a purpose or for a reason. So obviously when you're at the cashier stand, you see a lot of things like the gum or the candy. They're kind of like the cheap, 99 cents to $1.50 type of products that are like a snack. So it's like, you know what, I'm kind of feeling hungry. Let me grab one of these. It's kind of the quick, easy to go stuff. And a lot of them are more affordable and cheaper because honestly, it's like, would you really, if you're on a budget, would you really add a $10, I don't know, bag of chips? I mean, that's a big price. But I'm just saying, like, let's think, would you really put a king size bag of chips that say maybe is like $5.99 or $6.99 in your cart when you're looking at your grocery cart and you're like, oh my God, my bill is going to be, already $100. Why add on $7 more? It's like, no, you're probably going to be more likely to throw in that little 99-cent pack of M&Ms. So there's that. And then you have to understand too that when you go down certain grocery store aisles, that things are set up for a reason. So for example, when you go down the cereal aisle, a lot of the children's cereals are placed at eye level with the child. So why this is because a lot of the characters that are on the boxes make eye contact with the children no matter where you stand. So something like Captain Crunch, it's almost like the Mona Lisa, whether you're standing exactly in front of Captain Crunch or maybe a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, Captain Crunch is always making eye contact with you. So that to some degree has a relationship that this character is building with that child, and it's going to make the child want to buy it because they admire the things or the superstar that's on the box of Wheaties and stuff like that. And you'll notice that a lot of like the grain type stuff, like the oatmeals, or I saw this a lot in Germany. A lot of their whole grains that they used for actual breakfast time is either on the top shelf or the bottom shelf. So it's kind of outside of eye level. So once again, that is set there for a psychological reason. And so when you walk into the grocery store, you need to understand that the perimeter of the grocery store is more or less like your friend. That's where you're going to find a lot of the produce section. You're going to have a lot more your whole food type of choices, like your dairy products or your meat products. You're obviously going to have a deli there that might have like, the meats or the prepared type of foods. But a lot of that produce obviously is always on the perimeter and the outside of the grocery store. And kind of what's in the center of the grocery store is like the dungeon. So it's like these massive aisles full of foods, whether it's an aisle dedicated completely toward cereals and chips, an aisle completely dedicated to soda pop. Obviously depending on where you live, urban grocery stores in a city are a lot different than grocery stores in a suburb. So for example, if I visit Trader Joe's, in a smaller neighborhood store in downtown Seattle or in the near downtown, that's going to be a lot different than certain Trader Joe's that I visit back in Ohio where they're set in a suburb in some shopping type of community area. Obviously they have more storage space and things like that, a floor space that they can provide more products. So if you look at your cart, we're visual creatures. A lot of us learn through visual methods. What you see in your cart is what you're buying. So if you're trying to make better lifestyle choices, you obviously want to see things that are more well prepared, that are more whole food based, that are not processed or packaged. There's a little bit of an exception to this because things like beans are in a can, rice is technically in a package, but usually when you can see the actual food, that means it's more whole food. So what I mean by that is like you can actually see that this is a banana or a whole head of lettuce, or you can actually see that this is rice in um, a clear package. A lot of the rices that are in the box where you can't visually see it in the package, that is where a lot of those are processed because they might be some, wild grain rice mixes that have like a spice packet in it, or it could be something like a rice-a-roni type of thing where, once again, there's like a spice packet in there. So although the person might have good intentions that they want to eat rice, these kind of pre-made or quick-made rices are generally not as healthy as the whole food option, which is just buying, say, the long grain brown rice or the jasmine rice, things like that. If you are an impulse buyer or an emotional eater, you have to go in with a plan and you have to stick to that plan. And that's where some form of discipline has to come into play. Nobody is forcing things that are your weaknesses into your cart. Only you can make that choice. But if you go in with a plan and you check marked all 10 things, so if you need something like you need lettuce, say you're making a salad, you have like lettuce, tomatoes, some carrots, maybe you have some nuts, you already have like oil and vinegar and things like that at home. Maybe you want to put some feta cheese in it, or some chicken, like that's fine. But when you start going into the store, especially when you're hungry or you're just kind of meandering around, you're like, ooh, I just kind of want to see what the price is for the ice cream. It's like, if that's your weakness and your temptation, try not to tempt yourself to fall or cave into that weakness, because most likely you will go into that. So if you love this specific brand of ice cream and it's on sale for $1.99, you're probably more likely to buy it because like, oh God, I normally spend $4.99 on this pint of ice cream, and now it's $1.99, so I'm just gonna buy a few, and it's gonna last me a month, but then it's gone by Sunday. So so if you have a plan, you need to stick to that plan. And if it means avoiding a certain, like the frozen food aisle because you don't want to get tempted to buy that ice cream, then by all means you're gonna definitely do it. Another thing too, certain things in the middle part of the aisle, like let's talk about bread. So bread in the center part of the aisle, which is kind of like the dungeon or the sea of processed foods in the center of the grocery store. Obviously those are prepackaged and they're usually created from an outside company which has its own type of industrial complex or whatever that is either within your state or region or just across America in general. So when you buy things like White Wonder bread or Home Pride, all the stuff that's in the center aisles, those are going to be filled with tons of chemicals and preservatives to keep that bread fresh. If you make bread at home, it lasts 24 hours. If you buy a baguette, that baguette lasts that day, maybe 24 hours. It hardens up really fast. So in order for that bread down those center aisles to stay spongy and soft, there has to be a lot of additives in there. So if you are used to eating bread down those aisles, maybe you can start to try to choose the bread that's from the actual bakery in the grocery store. Now, we can get into a topic of conversation. Safeway bread created by Safeway is a better option than the bread down the center aisles. But the reality is there's still a lot of junk in the Safeway bread because some of those buns and rolls can last for a while. So there are better options, like more organic type of options, or your local bakery might have some stuff. But the reality is that's really difficult for a lot of people to understand or to fit in their budget. So you kind of have to do what you can. So for example, the more you buy from the perimeter of the grocery store, especially if that's the bulk of the products that are in your cart, that is the most ideal. If you love certain things like pancakes or banana bread, the more you can try to buy the ingredients whole and make your own, it'll generally be healthier than buying like the pre-made boxed products that are in the center aisles of the grocery store. A lot of those products have a lot more sugar and sweetener and things like that than what we really need. Obviously, a lot of banana bread recipes can call anywhere from 1 to 2 cups of sugar. It is so much sugar. I don't foresee a need for that, to where it's like once you adjust your palate, really you could make banana bread with like 1/4 cup, 1/3 of a cup of some form of sweetener in it, and it tastes completely great. But that's a palate adjustment change. So when you're going through the grocery store, just start to notice what you put in your cart. So if the bulk of the products that you buy are from the center aisles of the grocery store, you might want to rethink some things if you're trying to make some better choices in your life. So the less processed food that you have in your cart, the better. Some things, like I said, are a little bit of an exception because pasta is technically processed, but eating pasta, is way better than eating a bunch of different types of chips. So to some degree, we have to pick our battles because we do eat processed food. In today's society, you can't get around it, but the less junkier it is, the better it will be. So technically, a baguette is processed because the wheat has been broken down into, the flour form to be able to create the bread. But that option is way better than eating white Wonder Bread. So those are some tips that I have. So navigate the perimeter of the grocery store, buying a bulk of your stuff from there, going in with a plan, especially if you are an impulsive eater, and just try to fill up the bulk of your cart with more whole food things. So the more, if you have the time and the budget, stock up your pantry with certain things like some flours and rice and different grains. So then you have those options on hand to where you're not tempted to go down those, quote unquote bad aisles more than often. Once again, people love drinks like LaCroix and all these things that you could just buy. If you really have to have sparkling water in your diet, you could buy just plain sparkling water and then just squeeze some lemon or maybe put a little bit of juice in it. So I'll put some recipe links below. But one popular drink in Germany, it's called Apfel Schorle, which is basically like an apple spritzer. It's basically bubbly water with apple juice, and it's amazing. And it's really, really good because you can easily buy or even make on your own 100% apple juice that doesn't have sugar and things like that in it. That's a way better option than sometimes always buying these flavored water drinks because you don't really exactly know what type of flavoring is going in there. Like, is it really coming from juice or is it coming from an artificial type of sweetener? And, the last thing to note about the grocery store is that usually most stores today have like the health nut kind of food aisles. So that's where you maybe want to consider spending a little bit more of your time. But don't be deceived because, certain things like buying lentil chips, potato chips is obviously better than buying Ruffles, but you have to kind of look at your diet and be like, do I really need lentil potato chips? Maybe every now and then, maybe you want to, have some lentil chips or, some chips in your diet like once a month. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just if it's every day or an every week thing, like, is your body needing this to survive? And the more you can ask yourself these questions, the more we start to connect a lot of the whole food sources and things like that. So anyways, these are some thoughts that I have about how to navigate the grocery store. I hope it kind of gives you some food for thought on what you're putting into your cart if you're looking to make better choices. If you've navigated the grocery store, made better changes, I'd love to hear what you've done. We can all help each other. Everybody has different techniques and thoughts on that, but go in with a plan. Most people can go in and just grab their 1 or 2 things. Some people go into the grocery store with intentions of grabbing 1 or 2 things and end up with a cart of stuff, especially if things are on sale. So use a little bit of discipline and willpower in terms of what you're putting in that cart. No one's forcing you to do it. And yeah, any thoughts, questions, comments, please post below. And thank you for listening, liking, sharing, and subscribing. If you can subscribe to this channel, you can help me build it. I would greatly appreciate it. Have a great day. See you soon. Bye.